Morning everyone, and welcome back to the Runpreneur vlog, where we discuss all things entrepreneurship and running. It is a horrible morning. It's chucking it down. It feels like temperature's about -1, and there's a kind of a nipping breeze in the air as well, so not my favourite running conditions, to say the least. And it's Thursday Tales today. We're going to talk about past experiences in business, and today I'm going to talk about my experience with serviced accommodation. So as always, if you like this episode, please give it a like and a subscribe, and let's get started. So, serviced accommodation. Now I put this down in my experience is a big mistake, and okay, we've made okay money from service accommodation over the years, but I think the biggest mistake that I made, and I'm not saying service accommodation as a strategy is a mistake, because I know so many service accommodation providers who do an exceptional job and make some serious money in doing it. But I think where the mistake that I made was, you know, following the kind of wave, because I got back into service accommodation maybe 3 years ago, something like that, maybe 4 years ago, and it was the new kind of thing on the block. Airbnb had just come out, or they'd been out, but they came into the kind of mainstream. People were more familiar with booking.com and the process to getting listed on there as the two kind of main online travel agencies, and ultimately it was positioned as an equivalent to HMO management, or houses multiple occupation, of which I've got quite a lot of experience in, and it was kind of pitched as an equivalent return type strategy as HMOs. So the idea was that you could make the same, or if not more, than you'd make with an HMO, with kind of none of the management headache, because you'd have ultimately your kind of cleaners that would be the ones doing your kind of management for you, and that would all be portioned into each nightly booking. So I've kind of gone jumped ahead. For those of you that don't know what service accommodation is, it's basically renting a property out by the night, or short-term lets, basically. Holiday lets is what it's also known as, but in the property game it's kind of known as serviced accommodation. Now there's a car coming there. Just 1 second while this car goes past. Okay. Now there's another car coming in a minute. Country roads this morning, hey? But so that's what it's known as, and I think the issue is that it kind of gets positioned as a property strategy, because ultimately you are renting out a property that you either own or you're leasing for use of service accommodation. But the issue is, I think from my perspective, it falls more within the hospitality sector, and I think there's another car coming, Leo. Let this car come past. So I think where a lot of kind of seasoned property people, I like to consider myself one of those, kind of got involved in this thinking it was more of a property strategy, but then realising very quickly it was more hospitality. So it's alright, there are similarities because you're renting a property out and taking monies for it, but it's such a different business. It falls within a different tax bracket. You know, it can be subject to VAT and all sorts of different things that you don't get in the kind of normal renting out of a property in a residential sense. So that's one of the main differences, and a lot of people made a mistake there. So I already had enough on my plate when I got into service accommodation, and as always, I didn't do things by halves. So I kind of had a block of flats. I still have a block of flats that we're just about to rent out to our government agency on a 10-year lease, but that was being used as service accommodation, and I distinctly remember spending 2 weeks living in that block, assembling all of the flat pack furniture that needed to go into it. That's the other thing, the kind of, it's hotel style accommodation, so it has to be to a really high standard. Well, generally speaking, it does to perform well, because you've got to compete with other similar listings on the online travel agencies, and it's very much reviews based. So the better the reviews you get, the kind of more traction and repeat bookings you'll get, was the general thought process. So I remember spending 2 weeks up there putting all the furniture together with a team of guys, and then very quickly, shortly after that, we took on a 17 bed hotel in Blackpool that we were running as well. So we went from being a relatively small player with a couple of single units to a block of flats pretty quick, to then onto a hotel ultimately as such in a very short space of time. And ultimately, the one thing that we never were very good at the time was just getting past someone, 1 second. Morning. Was the importance of marketing in this business. Now, my property business has always been a lot focused around the social housing sector, and we had a big network of referrals, so we didn't really have to do much marketing to kind of find our tenants. And it's only really in the past 3 years that I've really learned and understood marketing and funnels and all those side of things. And what it became very apparent with serviced accommodation was, if you're just going through the online travel agencies, the fees that they hit you with can be as high as kind of 15% booking fees, and then you've got changeover fees, you know, in terms of the cleaning of the apartment after each stay, that your margins are squeezed quite dramatically. And the people that did the best out of it were the ones who were getting the long-term bookings that would stay for kind of 30 days plus, and then there were some kind of tax benefits and how you can kind of, you know, not have to pay your VAT for the long-term bookings, etc. So the ones that were doing really well were the ones that were getting more long-term bookings. And at the time I was very, very much a novice in the marketing world, and there's so much going on in all the other businesses, I didn't have enough time and effort to focus on that. So, sorry, it's really windy, really raining. So ultimately, our margins weren't good enough. And although we weren't making money, it was pretty stressful, because you're in a customer service, hospitality-based business. Now, when it's somebody's home that you're renting, i.e. a tenant in a kind of a traditional AST, it's you kind of fall into a routine. You have your set contractors, you kind of have a relationship with them over the long term. With serviced accommodation, it was like hotel guests expecting hotel customer service, and for, you know, small business that doesn't have that infrastructure, you know, I had a team of VAs that I just started bringing into the business to kind of service the calls effectively, all the demands. The people who are paying hotel prices, you know, rightfully want hotel style service. And I think although we were, I think we got to booking.com, our rating was 9.2 at one point, so we did a pretty good job, but it was just so much work and effort and hassle for what was less than what I was making in my bog standard stuff. Hence I kind of pulled away. You then had the ridiculously expensive software that you had to use. I had Keygo at the time. I think there's several other competitors out now. Takit was another one, I think, that at the time, but that was very new when I got involved. I got involved in service accommodation quite early on. The software was like 500 quid a month when you factored in, because they took a cut of every booking as well. So it was a big investment to get into this as well, with the furniture and the soft furnishings was expensive as well, curtains, pillows, duvets, all this type of stuff. And I think ultimately I probably came out of it possibly breaking even, and I've still got some furniture leases, furniture and storage and stuff from doing it, but I've pulled out of service accommodation completely now, because I made the assessment that it's just too different to what I want to be doing, hence I pulled out of it. So just to summarise, hopefully I've given a lot of people who are considering service accommodation, what would I tell you before you do it? Well, first and foremost, it's a completely new business. Over to the side, Leo. There's a car coming. So first and foremost, it's a completely new business. It's a completely different business. If you don't have any experience in the hospitality sector, then you need to consider it carefully, because there's a lot to learn in a short space of time. Bear in mind, I went on service accommodation masterclasses. I was on a mentorship program for 6 months for service accommodation with Paul Smith from Touchstone Education. The education was great. There's nothing wrong with the education, but I think I jumped in from fear of not missing out. I think ultimately, we'll turn around here, Leo. There's another car coming. So yeah, it was. I jumped in fear of not missing out. The latest new strategy. You don't want to miss it. Similarly, you're seeing loads of people jumping on to Clubhouse, a new social media app, and lots of people don't really understand it. Now I've jumped on that already, but I'm taking my time finding my feet on it before I decide to commit to doing anything for it, because you've got to remember, you need to be getting a return on the stuff that you're investing your time and energy into, and it needs to fit with your existing business model. If it doesn't, then it's just going to be a distraction, and it's going to cause chaos. And I think, looking back at my journey in service accommodation, it was something that did cause a distraction. And we got our service accommodation business up to 140, 150 grand turnover a year. So it grew to kind of 6 figures relatively quickly, but it may have been 140, 150 grand a year. But when you factor in all the costs, all the leasing of furniture, the investment in getting places up to the required standard, the margin was next to nothing. I think it was close to break even at the end of it with all the costs I was incurring. So I put it down to a couple of things. You know, I wasn't financially benefiting from the best strategy within service accommodation, which was the long-term bookings. So I didn't have enough knowledge on the marketing front now, and it was just too different a business. I had to bring in more members of staff that I had to train up. It was well, at the end of the day, if you fail at something, and I class it as a failure, some people would say, oh, you got to 34 SA units, but a lot of people get sucked into the vanity of that. I look at it as a failure, but you know what, if your failures you break even, they're not too bad a failure, that's for sure. So I look back and I think, you know what, I learnt a huge amount from that experience, and hopefully it's put me in good stead for the future. So that's my little experience in service accommodation. I class it as a mistake, but it's certainly not the strategy. I think the people that do it well do very, very well out of it, but by the most, the people that do well out of it are the ones that focus solely on it, and that's what my experience with networking with other SA providers have been. So that's it for me today. As always, if you've got any questions on this stuff, drop me a comment. I'll respond to everyone. If it's a bigger topic, I'll still respond, but I'll possibly do a vlog episode and tag you in. If this is irrelevant to you, no drama, just unfollow me on your social feeds. You don't have to unfriend, just unfollow, and you shouldn't get your feeds cluttered with my content. But before you do that, check out my Runpreneur YouTube channel, whereby I cover a different topic on each day of the week. So just because today's episode isn't relevant, hopefully there are other days throughout the week where the content is very relevant. So get involved in that, and you can dip in and out of that as a free resource on an ad hoc basis. So that's pretty much. Also check out the Facebook Runpreneur community group, where I host all of my free resources that accompany this vlog. The first one being my 70-step process to repurposing, reformatting and optimising your content across all social media platforms. There's a car coming, Leo. So do check that out if you certainly want to get more content out there in the coming weeks and months. And all that's left to say is that the Runpreneur vlog was set up to help entrepreneurs and business owners overcome the emotions of stress, overwhelm and anxiety by using exercise, in my case running, as a release mechanism to relieve the pressures of those stresses that each and every one of us experience. And I think the people that go on and thrive as an entrepreneur are the ones that manage these stresses and pressures the best. The ones that don't, the pressure builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it turns into overwhelm, then it turns into anxiety, and then that's where kind of mental breakdowns and stuff happen, which are obviously catastrophic to you and your personal health, but also your business. So, you know, I've been there. I've lost, perhaps not to the kind of panic attack level or mental breakdown, but close. I've been super overwhelmed and brinkering on the edge of kind of serious anxiety issues, and it's horrible. It's a horrible place. I've lost businesses because of this. I've lost multiple business partnerships because of this, and I've almost been bankrupt because of it. So I now find that I've got this kind of process in my life where I can process these emotions far more effectively, remain clear and focused on what I'm trying to achieve, which as a result makes me feel more in control with clarity, and it allows me to move on to hopefully bigger and better things. And as a result, I've taken on more than I've ever done, and I've made more progress in the last 6 months than I have in the previous 3 years. So my pledge to you is that if you are an entrepreneur and you're feeling these emotions and you're really struggling, just drop me a message, okay? There's no catch here at all. I'm not selling you anything or anything. It's just a very quick call where I'm hopefully going to give you a few tips and a bit of advice on what you can do in a positive manner into your daily routine that can kind of get you back on top of this, because it's a lonely place, entrepreneurship, at times, and there's more help out there than you can probably realise. And often so many of us struggle with entrepreneurial pride, whereby we bottle it all up thinking we're going to have to solve it ourselves, when actually just asking someone for a bit of help is often the best way forward. So don't be stubborn, reach out if that's you and I can help you in any way. So that's pretty much it. As always, if you like this episode, give it a like and subscribe and a comment, and if you want to see more similar content, check out the playlist link in the YouTube channel. And all that's left to say is, as always, stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow when hopefully it's drier. Bye.